All right, let's talk about something we see every day in the workplace, getting from one level to another. We use stairs, we use ladders, and we probably don't think twice about it. But behind that simple climb is a whole world of safety rules. Today, we're going to decode OSHA's playbook and figure out the really critical differences that keep people safe. So let's start with a basic question. You look at a set of stairs and you think, it's just steps and a railing, right? How complicated can it be? Well, the difference between a simple staircase and one that OSHA gives the thumbs up to is huge. It's all in the details, and those details are all about preventing a fall before it even starts.
Okay, so let's get into the anatomy of a proper OSHA-approved stair. To be compliant, it's not just about getting you up or down. Nope. It's about meeting a whole bunch of specific design rules that create a super predictable and safe environment for every single person who uses them. Now, if there's one core idea to get, it's this: passive protection. It sounds fancy, but it's simple. It means the safety features are literally built into the staircase. They're always on, working 24/7, and you, the worker, don't have to do a single thing. You don't clip in, you don't put on gear, the safety is just there. And this right here is a perfect example of that passive safety, but it's also where a lot of people get mixed up. Handrail versus guardrail, they are not the same thing. The handrail, which is a bit lower, is what you grab onto for balance, but the guardrail, that's the 42-inch high barrier that is literally there to stop your entire body from falling off the side. They have two totally different jobs, and on an open staircase, you absolutely need both. Here's another rule that seems small but is incredibly important: the angle of the stairs. OSHA says it has to be between 30 and 50 degrees. Why? Because that's the ergonomic sweet spot. It feels natural to walk up and down. If it's any steeper, it starts feeling more like you're climbing a ladder. Any shallower, and it takes up way too much floor space, and believe it or not, can actually become a trip hazard. And check this out, it's all about consistency. Every single step has to be the same height and depth. No surprises. Your brain goes on autopilot when you're using stairs, right? It just expects the next step to be where the last one was. This uniformity is what prevents missteps and trips. Throw in a minimum width so people can pass, and enough head clearance, and you've got a system that's designed for safety from the ground up. Okay, so let's shift gears now and talk about ladders. What happens when you just can't fit a big staircase? You use a fixed vertical ladder. But as you can imagine, the higher you go, the bigger the risk. And because of that, OSHA has a very, very clear line in the sand for when a simple ladder just isn't good enough anymore. And that line is exactly 24 feet. Any fixed ladder that goes more than 24 feet up from a lower level must have a fall protection system. It's not a suggestion, it's a hard rule, because at that height, a fall is just too catastrophic to leave to chance. So, this brings us to a totally different safety philosophy. Remember how stairs were all about passive protection? Well, tall ladders rely on active protection. Unlike a guardrail that's just there, an active system requires the worker to do something. You have to physically connect yourself to the system with a harness. Your safety depends on a conscious action. So, what does one of these systems look like? A modern ladder safety system, or LSS, has three main parts. First, you've got the anchor line. That's a cable or a solid rail running the whole length of the ladder. Second, the worker wears a full-body harness. And third, you have the connector. It's like a little trolley that slides up the line as you climb. But, and this is the magic part, if you slip, it instantly locks on the line and stops your fall within inches. It's a real lifesaver. Now, for a long, long time, we all saw those tall ladders with the big metal cages around them. And you think, well, that looks pretty safe. But things have changed in a big way. The regulations have shifted, and there's a really good reason why the era of the ladder cage is officially coming to a close. This timeline really spells it out. You see, before late 2018, cages were considered okay. But after that date, any new ladder over 24 feet had to have a modern LSS. And here's the big one. There's a hard deadline. By 2036, all those old cage ladders have to be upgraded or replaced with these much better systems. The clock is ticking. And that leads to the really obvious question, right? A cage looks safe. It feels like this protective bubble around you. So why is OSHA so determined to get rid of them in favor of a system that needs a harness and a connector? What's the problem? Well, here's the hard truth. A cage doesn't actually stop you from falling.
If you slip, you can still tumble all the way down inside that cage, hitting the metal bars on the way, which can cause terrible injuries. They can also make a rescue mission an absolute nightmare. And think about a first responder wearing bulky gear like a breathing apparatus. They might not even be able to fit inside the cage. An LSS, on the other hand, just stops the fall instantly.
Okay, so we've broken down both systems pretty thoroughly. Now it's time to put them side by side. Let's really look at the final verdict and nail down the fundamental differences in how they're designed and how they keep you safe. This chart just lays it all out, doesn't it? The angle is the most obvious difference. Straight up and down for a ladder, a nice, gentle 30 to 50 degrees for stairs. And that one single difference changes everything about the safety approach. It's an active system for the high-risk vertical climb versus a passive, always-on system for the stairs. One has rungs you climb. The other has deep treads you walk on. Two totally different tools for two different jobs. And at the end of the day, this is what it's all about. Knowing all these little rules for stairs and ladders, it's not just about passing an inspection or avoiding a fine. It's about something much more fundamental. It's about building a safer workplace from the ground up and making a real commitment to making sure every single person gets to go home safe. So I'll leave you with this thought. The next time you're at work, take a second look. Really look at how you and your team are getting around. Is that staircase at the right angle? Does that really tall ladder have a modern LSS? Or is it still relying on an old cage? Because now that you know the difference, you have the power to spot a problem, and that's the first step to making everyone safer.